In the news tonight, police go high-tech in catching perpetrators. Military dismisses personnel due to breaches. And Itoke community needs empowerment, says Prime Minister.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nunn.
Kulawinaka, Fiji. Police will be deploying more maritime patrols to catch people secretly travelling between islands without authorization. Police Commissioner Sitiveni Ngilio says he is receiving increasing reports of people evading the authorities, and this needs to be addressed urgently. State-of-the-art vessels equipped with night operation capabilities are now being deployed. Meeting his senior command today, the Police Commissioner has issued a directive to clamp down on breaches of COVID restrictions.
Especially Kandavu and Vanuatu, that they need to be tough from the start now and go with the tough enforcement that we're supposed to be doing at the moment to help the Ministry of Health.
We all understand the huge role that the Fiji Police Force undertakes, particularly in the control of movement. And with that control of movement comes the enforcement.
With confirmation that Kandavu was exposed to COVID-19 due to unauthorized travel between the islands, police will ramp up surveillance.
I'm working on that now so that we can be trained in handling those fast intercept and search rescue boats with its night capabilities that should help us in curbing that. And we know where they're landing here on Vitilevu. When we tighten up in one area, they go for the alternative site or they go through another island as well.
There is also an investigation underway into the abuse of curfew passes and vaccination cards.
We're working closely with Ministry of Health in reviewing some of these passes that we feel have been abused and have been flouted for some time now.
Those manning checkpoints in the Lami to Nosori containment zone have also been directed to be more stringent in their inspections. 18 personnel on the military forces have been discharged for breaching quarantine protocols. Minister for Defence and National Policing Inia Seruiratu highlighted in Parliament today that there is also one case yet to go through the disciplinary process. Lina Rees reports.
Let me make it clear.
The Minister for Defence says the RFMF still insists for a thorough investigation into the issue about the soldier involved in the alleged breaching of protocol that led to the initial outbreak of the Delta variant.
All health workers, they remain within the facility. All soldiers, they remain within the facility. Not the hotel staff. They go home every day. That is why we need that proper investigation rather than blaming the RFMF. I hope that can be cleared.
National Federation Party MP Pio Tikondondua also pressed the minister for an assurance that there are checks in place to deal with future breaches, if any.
That incident that now affects the 8 soldiers that have now been discharged is not going to happen again, because we should look after the interest of the soldiers that are carrying out the work. They are not slaves or laborers, they are soldiers.
I've answered it already. SOPs, protective equipment is very, very important, Mr. Speaker, but we are dealing with a variant that is highly transmissible. Australia and New Zealand are struggling now with the Delta variant. That is the challenge that we equally face.
Currently, there are a total of 134 RFMF personnel who are on quarantine enforcement duties, looking after over 900 individuals in these facilities. Lina Rees, FBC News.
Fiji records up to 600 COVID cases daily, with an average of 8 deaths daily. This is a worrying trend for the Ministry of Health, which needs to curb this trend as it could potentially lead to further mutations. Christiana Uluwai reports.
We will see the numbers drop by the 31st of October.
Vaccination to achieve herd immunity remains the best bet for the Health Ministry in reducing possibilities of developing new variants domestically.
I know it's not possible. If you can get nearly 100% of everyone in Fiji vaccinated, that argues well in terms of protecting health and also minimizing the spread and the rising of other variants that happens in places where the virus lingers for a long period of time.
In response through a supplementary question, Sudalpa MP Viliame Ngavoka encouraged the ministry to delegate other stakeholders to assist in driving the vaccination message home.
I brought this up yesterday with the minister to mobilize the tourism industry to convince people to promote vaccination in the tourism belts from Serua, Nandronga, Navosa, Mba and parts of Bra.
The ministry is adamant that herd immunity will be achieved by the end of October. Vaccination is the only guarantee that will allow Fiji to recover from this public health crisis. Christiana Uluai, FBC News.
The Itoke community needs to be empowered and does not need help from the opposition to protect them. This was highlighted by Prime Minister Voring Bainimarama while responding to opposition MP Andiliti Nimbaravi on the issue of Itoke administration at the village level. Sainia Nimboila reports Bainimarama maintains Itoke communities and land remain safe with the Fiji First government.
The Fiji First government continues to ensure that Itoke land value continue to increase and remains attractive for income generating activities. Bainimarama says this, according to the opposition, is illegal.
Increase the value of Itoke land, bring more money to landowners, but without a single millimeter of Itoke land being given up. But the opposition held it to be as some great infringement of land rights, when clearly it is not the case. Yet in the same breath, when actual land was taken away permanently, depriving the future generations access to that land, the opposition unashamedly stand up and say it's okay.
Andiliti Nimbaravi questioned the involvement of military personnel in entering Itoke villages and using hailers to disseminate COVID-19 information, who says they do not respect the community.
Respected tradition in the village, making official announcements in the villages they visited, as the Speaker said. The Mulangi must not overstep their authority in the villages.
What have we heard? An attempt to instate an outdated colonial mindset onto a rapidly modernizing economy and changing society. And this isn't 1874, Mr. Speaker, or even 1970. Honorable Speaker, decision-making no longer falls like a hammer from the top down.
Bainimarama says the Fiji First government continues to ensure that Itoke people continue to have their culture and traditions protected, have a fair share of their leases, as people in the grassroots level should not be left behind. Sainia Nimboila, FBC News.
And to our latest COVID-19 update, Fiji recorded 781 new COVID-19 infections for the period ending 8 a.m. yesterday. 626 cases are from the Western Division and 154 from the Central and 1 from the Eastern Division. The Health Ministry also recorded 8 new COVID-19 deaths between August 15th and 19th. 6 were from the Central Division and 2 from the Western Division. Fiji has recorded 42,541 cases since April this year. There are now 22,494 active cases in isolation, with 20,677 recoveries in total. The COVID-19 death toll stands at 421. The vaccination campaign continues around the country. As of yesterday, 539,555 people, or 92% of the target population, have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 223,987 people, or 38.2%, have received the second dose. The 5 most vaccinated areas include Mba, Rewa, Nandronga and Naitasiri, which have achieved 100% first jab administered. Next is Nandi. And Serena Bambiao, 77-year-old Serena Bambiao of Yalalevumba, has got her jab. Have you gotten yours yet? Up ahead, $54 million payout for today. And Fijians continue to get seasonal employment. Welcome back. The government will disburse about $54 million of unemployment assistance to around 150,000 Fijians today. Minister for Economy Ayasayed Kayum says so far they've received 345,000 applications for the first payment of the $360 cash assistance. Kuroitandulala reports.
Based on initial assessment, the ministry has identified that 260,000 Fijians qualifies for the assistance, which means an overall payment of $93.6 million to all of those individuals during this first round.
Can the Honourable Minister update Parliament on the unemployment assistance? Thank you.
Interestingly enough, Mr. Speaker, sir, those who did not qualify so far are 33,103 who applied but did not get their first dose of the vaccine. What we have said, because they've applied, the application have closed, but we're giving them another week. If they go and get their first dose by next Friday and provide us proof with that, they can get the 360.
The minister also highlighted that of those that applied for the assistance, 739 were under the age of 18.
Some who currently are receiving FNPF or on pension, 17,362 who actually applied also, so they don't qualify. Interestingly enough, there are 4,354 civil servants who applied, even though they're being paid wages and salaries.
More than 2,000 of those who applied were receiving TELS allowance, and 1,564 of those who also applied were receiving social welfare allowance, with some duplicate application also recorded. Kuroitandulala, FBC News.
The Ministry of Health has plans to assist frontline workers with counselling and psychological support to ensure they do not become fatigued. Minister Dr. Ifiremi Wangainambete says they have recruited an in-house counsellor so that services are easily available to frontline workers. Thousands have been working almost non-stop guarding containment areas and treating patients since the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed on 18th April. Kritika Kumar reports.
The Ministry of Health says it has also partnered with the Empower Pacific to provide services to frontline workers through a virtual platform.
We try to encourage as much as possible the frontliners to let us know how best we can support them. That also includes platforms in which the Permanent Secretary, myself, the Chief Medical Advisor are on.
He adds stringent safety protocol was drawn up to ensure none of the counsellors have direct contact with any frontline workers.
So the question is whether there are in-house counsellors in the military, in the police force, and also now that the infection is picking up in the north and in the west, what kind of services are available?
We have recruited an in-house counsellor. That's apart from the counselling services that are readily available. Honourable Speaker, we also have a service called psychiatry, or the mental health service.
All frontliners are being provided adequate food, protective gear and psychological support to be able to carry out their work in high-risk environments. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
The wide rollout of COVID-19 vaccines will mean a new beginning for the tourism sector, says Assistant Minister for Youth and Sports Alvik Maharaj. He adds this is the first critical step to recovery for Fiji, as thousands of Fijians will return to work. Ritika Pratap reports.
Work is already underway to safely open our borders, with major focus put on getting 80% of the target population fully vaccinated.
The question is how prepared will Fiji be towards the inevitable reopening. Domestically, we are opening up in a COVID-safe manner. As vaccination rate grows, we can be in a better position to open up more businesses and boundaries, and eventually our country to the world.
Tourism Minister Fayaz Koya says if Fiji fails to achieve its vaccination targets, we will be amongst those countries that will remain shut to the world.
So hopes for a swift recovery of international travel are now pinned on a silver bullet: the rapid and widespread distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine.
The minister adds the tourism industry has been working together to encourage vaccine uptake, not just amongst its stakeholders, but across the tourism supply chain and the nation as a whole. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
175 Fijians have been selected for labour needs in Australia under the Pacific Labour Scheme. Employment Minister Parveen Kumar says the next batch of workers was supposed to leave in October, but this has been deferred due to the rising COVID cases in New South Wales. Josiah Nanunga reports the selected workers are fully vaccinated.
With COVID cases escalating in parts of Australia and New Zealand, the Employment Ministry is working around the clock to ensure the welfare issues of Fijian workers are identified and managed.
The employer has also confirmed that these 128 PLS workers are entitled to apply for the New South Wales disaster relief payment of 750 Australian per person.
Opposition MP Niko Nawaikula questioned the effectiveness of the scheme for these workers upon their return to Fiji.
The primary objectives of this scheme is for income to come to Fiji. It's not stupid. That's the very reason. They go there, they're spending there. What usually will be into Fiji? Order.
When they come back with the savings. I tell you, it's not a small amount of money. I'm not going to reveal how much, but I can tell you it's not a small amount per annum.
The Employment Minister has confirmed that 1,271 Fijian workers are currently working in Australia and New Zealand under the Seasonal Workers Program and Pacific Labour Scheme. The number of intakes has dropped significantly due to the ongoing border restrictions. Josiah Nanunga, FBC News.
Coming up in world news, New Zealand's COVID cases grow further. And later in sports, women footballers take the cue from Fijiana.
Despite the current economic situation that has been affected by the pandemic, a Nandi businessman decided to open a new supermarket. An investment of $200,000 saw Price Busters Supermarket open its doors today in Nandi town. Owner of the supermarket, Asish Narayan, says his new venture will also mean employment opportunities for people during this hard time. So far, the supermarket has employed 12 people.
This is the only business which will survive along the period, as it is also one of the essential business, right? And a basic need. So providing it at the right price is my duty.
After closing his shop a few months ago due to the pandemic, a Nandi businessman has managed to reopen its doors. The Pacific Fried Chicken restaurant had opened last year. However, just a few months after, they were forced to shut down due to the severe effects of COVID-19. However, this did not deter the owner, as he wanted to have the shop running again, as it was also providing employment to 6 people.
Faith in the economy, it's going to pick up, and things are opening up. And with a positive mindset, people have got positive mindset, so we thought to just reopen.
Digicel has implemented BSP's Internet Payment Gateway solution, allowing customers to top up their MyCash mobile wallet directly from their BSP bank accounts using the Digicel Self-Care portal. This announcement enables MyCash customers to fund their mobile wallet instantaneously by transferring funds from their BSP account using their BSP EasyCard or any Visa debit or credit card through the IPG portal. MyCash is a mobile wallet that gives Fijians access to digital money that can use to pay bills, send and receive money, and shop. Digicel Fiji Chief Executive Farid Mohammed says this self-care portal gives their users a safe way to transfer money directly into their mobile wallet and lets them transact easily and safely. Harun Ali, BSP country head, says he is delighted with this partnership. Here, the local exchange rates as set early this morning. The Fiji dollar gained against our 2 major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, for the 3rd straight day, but lost ground against the other international currencies we cover. Prices on the commodities market were mixed. Crude oil dropped to $63 a barrel, gold rose a few dollars to $1,785 per ounce, and silver closed up at $23.21 per ounce. And we now join Sharon from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money market.
Good evening. The US dollar rose to a 9-month high amid safe haven demands. Concerns about widespread coronavirus infections and Federal Reserve meeting minutes showing it was considering reducing pandemic-era stimulus this year hit global stocks and commodity-linked currencies. Better than expected U.S. employment-related data also added to the dollar's strength. U.S. weekly initial jobless claims came in at the lowest level since the pandemic began at 348,000 this morning. Meanwhile, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars weakened near 9-month lows. Aussie dollar has fallen 3% this week, on track for its worst performance since September of last year, with most of the country under lockdown to battle COVID-19 outbreak. Kiwi also dropped 2.9% for the week, also the worst since September after its central bank delayed a rate hike, shifting gears as the country went into a snap lockdown. Next week will be key to traders as they wait for US GDP numbers. But for this week, that's all I have from your HFC Bank. Thank you.
Digicel Fiji today announced a further $13 million upgrade to its LTE network. Over the last 2 years, the company has invested $30 million in upgrade, which saw most cell sites in the main centers upgrade to LTE Advanced Pro technology and increased LTE coverage in maritime areas. Digicel Fiji Chief Executive Farid Mohammed says a result of the overwhelming response to the All-In campaign, this multi-million-dollar investment is critical as there is additional demand for data during the COVID lockdown. Mohammed says the network upgrade will deliver increased data capacity in major residential areas and also see the Digicel network coverage expand in new areas. And that is the latest from my end. But coming up after the break, pandemic fails to deter flower woman. Stay with us.
Welcome back. As many families mourn the loss of loved ones during this pandemic, florist Marida Ravuta tries to keep up with orders. The owner of Garden of Eden has been busy during these times ensuring customers farewell their loved ones with beautiful floral arrangements. Apanisa Wangai Randovu reports.
The past week has been about ensuring she meets the demands, even if it means giving up her sleeping hours.
We just have to manage our time well. Who does, whatever task we are assigned to meet the customer's demand. Just lately, we had to request for a pass, a COVID pass, in order to deliver the funeral wreaths within the time expected.
Ravutu, who grew up learning the art of flower arrangement, says during this pandemic where people cannot gather in large numbers, flower businesses are seeing a surge in demand.
Flowers are not always important. Other things are important, like focusing on a budget of Yangona, the Vatunloa, other things. During COVID pandemic period, flowers has been top demand from relatives.
With this increase in demand, Ravutu has also partnered with a few other florists to ensure they can supply for customers. She says what inspires her to continue with the business is a desire for people who have lost their loved ones to feel peace when farewelling them. Apenisong Grandobu, FBC News.
Medical equipment and supplies worth $439,000 have been donated to the Ministry of Health by the World Health Organization. The donation includes 75 oxygen concentrators and accessories, 1,000 pulse oximeters, 100,000 gowns and 100,000 N95 masks, which come from WHO's regional emergency stockpile and will be used in government's fight against COVID-19. Lina Rees has more.
The supplies that were delivered were requested by the Ministry of Health and will be used to treat COVID-19 patients while ensuring the safety of frontline medical staff.
We need to be looking beyond the current outbreak, and so there are opportunities for our far-flung nursing stations and health centers to be able to have access to this, and instead of just waiting for the cylinder to be changed, they have oxygen readily available apart from the PPE.
While commending the work done by frontliners, the World Health Organization highlighted that the equipment will be valuable in the current situation.
I'm glad that WHO, with support from partners, and donors have been able to support the work in Fiji so far. It's important that we not only respond, it's also important that we look into the future and be prepared. And that's one of the reasons why today
The Ministry of Health is also in discussion with WHO about bringing in an oxygen plant which is expected to arrive in the next month or two and will be placed at the Colonial War Memorial Hospital. Lena Rees, FBC News.
In a bid to continue protecting Fijians from the ongoing pandemic, the Suva Retailers Association has today donated more face masks and hand sanitizers to the Suva City Council. SCC Chair Isikeli Tikondondua received 10,000 face masks and 120 hand sanitizers, which will be distributed to informal settlements around Suva. Tikondondua says these businesses are not immune to the effects of the pandemic and have also had their share of struggles. Suva Retailers Association President Jitesh Patel says this is a duty of care by businesses in the capital who also have not been spared by the pandemic.
For Suva, we've got 18 informal settlements. And what we will be doing is we will be distributing these to them.
Not only this, the Suva retailers will be donating more masks to homes like the children's homes, the Golden Age homes too. Within this week, in total, we are distributing or giving donations of about 40,000 masks and 1,000 bottles of sanitizers.
And to Jamie now with Friday Night Sports.
Unaka, and good evening in sports tonight. Grandmother's advice drives Olympic medalist. And Fijiana farewell Paralympians. This and more coming up. Winning an Olympic medal with the Fijiana 7 side has been a dream come true for Vasiti Solikoviti. But just like anything worth achieving in life, the journey was far from easy. Solikoviti says she was able to overcome many of those challenges by taking inspiration from her late grandmother, who had always encouraged her to chase her dreams. Karlaini Tavi with this report.
The Olympic medalists started playing football before switching to rugby. But for the Esau native, there was still something missing.
I started playing football from 2015 to 2020 until I realized that women's football in Fiji is not that advanced. So then I asked my parents if I could switch to rugby, and that was the best decision I've ever made.
It was her grandmother, who is also her namesake, who saw the talent she possessed and believed in her.
Took it upon myself to look after my late grandmother when she was sick. She had always reminded me that I was destined for greater things, and that is something I will never forget.
With whatever little support the Fijiana team had, they ensured they made their mark on the world stage.
Still, rugby in Fiji is still evolving, and there is not much support as compared to the men's team. Even though we didn't get much as compared to the men, we were not disheartened.
One advice the side can give to aspiring players is to respect their parents.
Please, just keep believing in yourself and make sure just to listen to your parents in order for you to achieve your goals. Those are two blessings. Then you will want to get whatever you want in this world.
With the Rugby World Cup and Commonwealth Games next year, Solikoviti is ready to put on the national jumper again. Karleni Tavi, FBC Sports.
An equal playing field is needed now more than ever for women and men in sports. The issue was raised in Parliament today by opposition MP Leonor Rangerengere-Tambua, citing the Fijiana's historic Olympic achievement. Tale Materakula has more.
Leonor Rangerengere-Tambua, in her end-of-the-week statement, highlighted the need to put words into action for our women in sports.
There must be a development pathway. There must be adequate and equal and fair distribution of financial support by governing bodies, for players, for their teams, for clubs and officials, from government and from sponsors.
She says there's a need to recognize women as athletes and not just limited on their gender.
They must have equal time in the gym and on the training field as their male counterparts. There must be regular competition.
Minister for Youth and Sports Parveen Bala says the government has done and will continue to play its role in sports.
Fiji First government provided 1.47 million for the preparation and participation of our women's team. Over the past years, the ministry has been working closely with the Fiji National Sports Commission in addressing the need for gender balance in our community sports programs.
Gerengari Tembua says establishing an equal playing field for men and women does not only apply to athletes, but it should be reflected in the administrative side of sports as well. Tali Materukula, FBC Sports.
Yosefo Rakesa will be Team Fiji's flag bearer at the Paralympic Games opening ceremony in Tokyo, Japan next Tuesday. Rakesa and Inosi Matea left the country last night for the Games, but not before the Fijiana added their own touch to motivate and farewell the pair. Aquila Dama with this report.
The Fijiana playing their part on a dark and cold Nandi night with the hope of lifting our athlete spirits before they embark on another inspirational journey.
Any pressure, as long as it's good pressure, is good, because diamonds are made under pressure as well. So we take that as inspiration. Even yesterday, the boys were sent off by the Fijiana. They got serenaded and wished all the best.
Rakesa and Matea will be competing in their first Paralympic Games, but both know the platform was set by Ilyas and Delana in 2012.
Opening ceremony is on the 24th of August. Our athletes will compete on the 30th. That's both of them. One will compete in the morning, and the other will compete at 7 in the evening. And Iosefo will be the last one to compete on the 4th of September.
Fatiaki says they are blessed to have another extra year to prepare after the Games were postponed to this year due to the pandemic. Aquila Dama, FBC Sports.
Stamping its mark on the international stage is amongst the list of plans to elevate the status of women's football in the country. First on the list is qualifying for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, but the journey to getting there hasn't been made any easier with the ongoing global pandemic. Tali Materukula reports.
Part of the strategy to elevate women's football is to leverage world events.
Taking advantage of, this major world event that's going to put our region in the spotlight. And at the same time, we would wish that this would become an opportunity for us to showcase to girls in Fiji the potential that women's football has for young girls.
It is also a mechanism of maintaining the interest of those already in the sport.
I think whatever platform we play internationally, it gives us the opportunity to express our skills and talent around the world, and also build the players' confidence and morale. We want to expose our players as much as possible in international matches so that we keep our girls motivated.
Hopes are on restrictions to be eased sooner for training to get underway.
If things do normalize by November, I think that's some breathing space for us. When we look at other member associations, they have an upper hand because they've been competing and also preparing in their own camps.
If sports does start in November, the national squad will have 7 months to prepare for the World Cup playoffs next year in June. Tale Materukula, FBC Sports.
Fiji-born Samu Kerevi counts himself blessed to be back in the Wallabies camp after his return from his Olympic outing in Tokyo, Japan. Kerevi, who last played for the Wallabies in 2019, has joined camp and started training with the squad ahead of its third Bledisloe Cup test in Perth. The 27-year-old says he's grateful to be able to contribute and be part of the group with a wide range of gifted players.
To get as much knowledge as I can these next couple of days and just push each other, push the centers, push our group in a positive way and impact the group in a positive way. And wherever that leads, I'll be happy with. So my first thing is just what's ahead of me today, and when we head into the test week, we'll see how that goes.
The UAE announced their arrival at the Beach Soccer World Cup in Russia with a stunning 4-3 victory over two-time finalist Tahiti. The two teams setting the tournament alight with an entertaining match that was pushed into extra time. In play of the day, things may have gotten heated between Gail Monfils and Andrei Rublev at the Cincinnati Tennis Open, but they still managed to play out a quality match. Pooh Sticks is our quirky sport of the day. A game that originates from the Winnie the Pooh books and cartoons was first mentioned in the 1928 book The House at Pooh Corner and was first played in real life in 1984 in England. That's it from Sports Tonight. Up next, your weekend weather forecast. This and more after the break.
Fine and cool conditions prevailed over most of the country today. To the west, mostly fine and will be cool at night. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, another beautiful sunny day. And in the north, similar conditions prevailed. All in all, a good day. Places we are checking out tonight are Singatoka, Nosori and Mbua. Singatoka had a feel of 29. Moderate southeast winds, fresh at times, moderate to rough seas. Turning to the tides, the next high tide is at 5:07 a.m. Sunrise is at 6:22. For tomorrow, some showers over the northeastern parts of Vanuatu and the Lau Group. Cloudy periods with brief showers over the eastern parts and interior of the larger islands. The further outlook for Sunday, cloudy periods with brief showers over the eastern parts and the interior of the larger islands. And Cleantha O'Neill from Nandi, who works at the airport, took this shot early this morning, the sunrise from the Nandi Airport car park. In Fijian Pulse, we ask, have you been undertaking backyard gardening and how has it helped you?
And I've just planted eggplants and long beans and pumpkin, radish. And it is good to have at home because we can have fresh fruits and fresh vegetables.
We've been doing some backyard farming and we've been planting some taros, eggplants, tomatoes, cabbage just to support us during this pandemic times so we don't have to come to the markets to buy all those.
We've been doing some planting at home backyard gardening, cabbages, kumala, and it's been beneficial to the family.
Yes, I've been doing backyard home gardening at home and it has assisted me and my family a lot, and we've been having food supplies from the backyard gardening.
Actually, we planted lots of vegetables at home and it really assisted during this pandemic because mostly at that moment during this pandemic we are not buying vegetables because all are planted.
Recapping our main stories, police go high-tech in catching perpetrators, military dismisses personnel due to breaches, and Itoke community needs empowerment, says Prime Minister. For these stories and others, tune in to our sister station Gold FM. To our poll question, this week we are asking, should commercial banks relook at lending rates? Visit our FBC News website to take part and send us newsworthy pictures and videos, fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via social media. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again next week. Until then, stay safe. Modemanta.